Hey guys, in the previous video we had a look at an end-to-end test automation process where I explain how everything falls into place to create an effective and efficient test automation process. For example, in that video we saw where does continuous integration falls into picture, we saw where test frameworks fall into picture, we saw where notifications, monitoring and manual analysis falls into picture. So if you missed that video, I would highly recommend you to have a look at that. Why? Because it creates a foundation for everything that we're going to do in the upcoming videos. If you remember, at the end of that video I said now we have an artifact, which is this artifact, which is worth putting into a project, which is worth version controlling and worth sharing with you guys, right? So in this video we will start with the first topic, and that is to create a project. Now let me show you like various ways in which you can create a project. Let's start by the simplest one, and that is just to do a right click and you can name a project like whatever you want. In my early days I tried to take an inspiration from Windows, like with program files, and I named my projects with multiple words with spaces in between. I very soon realized that that was a bad approach. Why? Because well, sooner or later you will try to run those frameworks into continuous integration, and with Bash or with PowerShell, spaces between words is treated like multiple arguments or multiple parameters, right? So I stopped doing that. Then I moved to writing my naming my frameworks like with PascalCase or camelCase. The way PascalCase looks like is, if I name my project as Iron Man, every first letter of the word will be capital. That's how a for example a PascalCase name looks like. Then I moved from writing it from PascalCase to camelCase, in which the first word is all lowercase, the second word start with capital letter. In fact, then I even moved from naming my frameworks as a two words names to single words names, for example like this, and the reason was I just found it more convenient to talk about them in stand-ups and refer them with single words than with multiple words. So if you actually go to my GitHub repo, you will find that my frameworks are named as Carrot, which is what I use for like automating RabbitMQ. One of them was named as Pigeon, which was to like create a project for FedEx. Like Thor was like lightning fast framework for automating APIs. So that's how I pick my names now, right? But you can pick whatever name you want to pick, one words or multiple words, but just be aware that don't put spaces in between, right? Since we talked about a topic of naming conventions, I already told you about two of them, like camelCase and PascalCase. There are more cases. So for example, if you go to Linux, in Linux world, the files are named as like either kebab-case, and kebab-case looks like this, or the files are named as snake-case. So this is how things work in Linux world. There's a very good article which explains what these different kind of naming conventions are, and where to use what. So if I just search with different naming conventions, I recently clicked on this article and I think this was the one. So I will put the link of this this article in the description below, so that you understand where to use what, right? If I give some examples in terms of Java world, because our project examples will be in Java, let me quickly give you some examples. So for example, all the test classes are named in PascalCase. The methods are named as camelCase. If you can see, the variables are also named as camelCase. The Java constants are named as snake-case with all caps. However, if you want to name any database fields, then database fields are named like this, right? So these are like some of the examples. Let me go back. Let's see what else to cover. Yeah, another thing that you can keep in mind is try to follow a standard convention. Try to follow a convention in your project on how you name your directories and how you name your files. So for example, a convention that I use to put my files is so that's a bad example. I would probably rename it, but I like to name my files as camelCase, as kebab-case. So for example, I'm not finding a good example here because, well, in PowerShell this is how the PowerShell scripts are named. And maybe that brings us to another important topic, that you will often come across situations where you will try to follow a convention. Like I said, I like to follow kebab-case to name my files. But if you are trying to name a file which comes from a technology that has a standard, always follow the standard. And what I mean by that is, for example, if you look at readme file, it's not kebab-case, like all letters are in capital. If you look at editor config, it's also not kebab-case. Every letter is lowercase, right? But I did not try to write it like a kebab-case because well, that's the standard that is being followed. So always, if there's a conflict between standard and convention, let the standard win, right? So in this case, even though I would like to name my files in general as kebab-case, but I used it as a verb noun case because that's how the PowerShell scripts are named. Let me see. So these are all, yeah, this is a good example of kebab-case. That's like a convention which I like to follow. What else? So let's look at another ways of creating a project. So we already saw how to create a project using doing a right click, create a directory. Another way that you can use is like you can just see here. I think I already created a project. I don't know if it exists or not. Let's go to D drive. Let's see, 0. No, it's not there. So I can do it again. Let me do a clear screen. So what I did was change directory. Go to the directory where you want to create a repository, and just do make directory and give the name of the repository. So in this case, we will call our project as project 0. Why? Because it's a special number. Like depending on where you use it, it might increase the value, or it might reduce the value to nothing. And since we are going to start from the basics, I would like to call our project as project 0, right? So now this project is created. You can go inside the directory, you can open it inside Visual Studio Code, and then if you want, you can create more subdirectories. So for example, let's create a subdirectory called drawings, because that's where we want to put our drawing, right? And let's say if I open the folder, if I go to desktop, let's copy this file, and actually I can just put it here. If I go to D drive, you can just go to 0 now, and you can paste it here. And this is written in all kebab-case, right? And if you go to let's say Windows 4, or was it Windows 5, so not this one but the other one, you can actually see that inside drawings we now have a file, right? And it's a binary file, so that's why it looks like this. Normally we don't put binary files into version control system, but in this case, since I want to share this binary file with others so that they can modify it for their own custom projects, that's why I am going to push it on version control system. So yeah, I think we have covered pretty much everything, like how to name your projects, to use single words or double words. If you use multiple words, don't give spaces. We also touched upon multiple naming conventions, and I also mentioned that if you have a conflict between a standard and a convention, always let the standard win, right? And then we saw multiple ways of creating a project. So I showed it how to do it by doing a right click. We saw it how to do it via command line. Maybe there's one more thing which I can show. If you already know the kind of project that you want to create, you can also do it from IntelliJ. So for example, you can go to File, New Project, and for example, I like Maven, so let's create a Maven project. And for example, if you call it as Iron Man, Iron Man is not a good word. Maybe let's call it Fury, and let's call it this window. Then you can see that you have more things available in the project, right? So it's already giving you a POM file. You have a structure where you can put stuff. So that's another way of doing things. I like to take an approach of a need-based learning. So I did not see a need yet to introduce POM and Maven and all that stuff. And that's why I did not create our project using this approach. And like when the needs will grow, then we will add the Maven framework to our project 0, right? But if you already know what you want to do, you can also use this approach. So we saw 3 ways of creating a project: by doing a right click, creating a directory, by doing command line, and by IntelliJ. So that's it for now, and I think in the next video we will try and see how to protect this project and how to version control this project. Because at this moment, if let's say if I go here and if I accidentally delete this, then my work is gone. If I modify it with something else and if I save it, then if I want to go back to my previous versions, I will not be able to do that. So in the next video, I will introduce you to Git, which is a distributed version control system, which is much more powerful than like traditional version control systems, like what we used in the past, like SharePoints, VSS, stuff like that. So that's going to be a very interesting topic in itself. So I hope you learned something useful in this video, and I look forward to see you in another video where we will try to add version controlling to our project 0. That's it for now. I'll see you later. Cheers. Bye-bye.